Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And also keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy. All right, folks, here we are just before market close on Thursday, September 30th. We're going to take our daily look at SoFi. Now, I want to come back and take a look at the day and then the daily chart after the market closes. So first, let's take a look at the news and catch up on what's been going on in SoFi's crazy world. So today, there was an update that came out. Although this says 9:29, I think it came out very, very late last night, West Coast time, and says that SoFi increases the size of the offering and prices 1.1 billion in convertible senior notes offering due 2026. Now this is earlier yesterday. They had priced out 750 million. And so they've upped this amount by over $250,000. Now I have both a bullish and a bearish view on this, and I don't know which is true, and in fact, neither could be true. So let's start with the bullish. Why not? So my bullish take on this is twofold. One, either they had some additional opportunities crop up that they thought that they could utilize an additional, it's not the only challenge with this one is it's not that much more money. So 250, 300 million, possibly for acquisition of another company or something like that, that this would provide funds for something like that. And they thought, well, why sort of do this down the line? Why not just bundle it with the offering that we're currently putting out anyway? The other bullish possibility in my mind is that there was so much interest in this 750 million that they actually decided, well, instead of turning away some of the interest, let's just up the offering and take on more of those folks and adjust some of the details. And you can certainly read through this on their investors.sofi.com site. Adjust some of the details and up the overall offering and utilize that capital and just sort of not turn folks away. So those are my bullish possibilities. And obviously the first case is, they have more targets in mind, they have more growth, they have more potential they see out there, and they want more money to acquire more things or what have you. The more recent bullish take is that then folks are so interested in getting in on this that they sort of overflowed what SoFi was trying to take in the offering. My bearish take on this is one, that this could just be sort of like another bumbling mistake by SoFi. I don't know if the costs that they had incurred from the Galileo acquisition that then impacted their most recent, or their first as a public company, quarterly report, the Q2 earnings call that we went over. I don't know if those costs associated with it that were then like a one-time major draw on their funds was sort of like a misstep, or if that was actually planned. It seemed more like a misstep to me, but I don't know for sure. But this was my first thought was, oh God, they miscalculated how much putting up 750 million was actually going to cost them, like in extra fees or who knows what that comes along with that. And they just made an error here. And now they need to bring in more money in order to sufficiently fund that 750 million. And this is actually just a component of that. The other thing is, I don't know exactly why they would do it, but this is also kind of bearish. They, like I said, they've updated some of the details in here, and this is, to my mind, still another sort of layer of confusion, not only in the sense that in the morning they put out this 750 million, and then by late evening they changed that. So there's like investors and the market as a whole getting hit with the news that they obviously didn't react well to yesterday, getting hit with that twice in less than 24 hours, probably in about 12 hours. And just all of the I'm not saying that this was an investor relations fault or issue or mistake or anything like that, but just knowing how poorly, in my perspective on how investor relations generally handled the inquiries around the lockup and size of their float and stuff like that, I think was pretty lackluster at best and irresponsible at worst. And I worry that there's like a trend that's sort of developing here, that they aren't necessarily getting better at these things, but they're continuing to bumble through some of these things and just make unforced errors, and that it reflects poorly on their ability to execute and their ability to get the details right. And obviously, the bigger bearish outlook to me on that is they have this grand vision, right? That's what I kept saying in my price targets video, I think. And if they can't get this stuff right, I have a really hard time understanding how they're going to get the grand vision stuff right. And it definitely affects confidence levels in myself, at least, with every single one of these types of issues. And so the challenge here is, until something else happens, we don't know if there was like a huge additional increase in folks wanting to get on this offering. We don't know if they had other targets or other usefulness for an additional, 250 million or so, or we don't know if it was just, whoops, our calculators, we missed a line item there. We need to cover these costs as well, so let's up the offering. We don't know, and potentially we won't ever know. I don't know that investor relations would be proactive or savvy enough to actually be useful or helpful to investors in trying to solve this puzzle. But in either case, I don't think that it's really a great look. And if I'm missing something and they actually have done a good job of, or they have, I don't know if it's a good job, but they have put out some information on why this happened, please feel free to drop that in the comments. I'll happily pin that. Like I said, I come into these things sort of like a whirlwind toward the end of the day, and I catch little nuggets along the way during the day, but then I have to come in and try to cram in a bunch of things within 10 minutes or so, and then make the video with the best understanding that I can accumulate within those 10 minutes. So I could be missing something. But if I'm not, and there's not something that comes out very, very soon from investor relations that helps clarify what is going on here, I think that it's certainly, again, to me personally, it feels like the confidence level is just waning on my side if we don't get something useful from the company or from investor relations in terms of like explaining. So that's all that I'll say about that. And again, if you're screaming at your phone or your computer or whatever while you're watching this, just drop me some information on anything that they did offer up. I'll gladly pin it. I don't mind having missed something or whatever. I don't care, but I'm happy to pin the correct info. Now, similarly, I did want to also mention, I think somebody had mentioned this on Twitter or something like that, about this Upstart offering that had happened on August 17th of 575 million, and what Upstart has done since then. So if we look at August 17th on Upstart's daily chart, we see August 8/17 was right here. Okay, so it's just after it had run up here, this big gap up, which it definitely did not come down to fill. Maybe it will, I don't know. It's been almost 2 months. But anyway, big gap up here, and it was consolidating around this level, and that's when that offering came out on August 17th of 2021. And then what did it go to do from there? It went from a closing price of $200.18 to a high of $346 just about a week ago, exactly a week ago today. So it went up about 1.5 times the price after that news came out. Now it did drop on the 19th, 8.67%. So a significant drop on the 19th of August, but then it just started this huge upswing. So I don't exactly know what might have happened on August 19th. Maybe their investor relations came out and did a really good job of explaining this to investors. I don't know. Updates. Okay, they priced it. Yeah, so maybe it was, I was kind of joking there, but maybe it was something that they proactively did as a company to try to clarify some of these things and try to help investors out with understanding what's happening and not just adding to the confusion. Again, my worry with SoFi is we just got out of a time period of so much distress and confusion on the retail investor side where people were very proactively trying to seek answers, were unable to get, to my mind, sufficient or efficient answers, either one of those things, and it had some pretty drastic fallout. And if there are companies out there that are doing a better job under similar circumstances, I think it would behoove whomever at SoFi, and this isn't just to unfairly skewer people, but if they could be doing things better and they have clear analogs available to them to copy, just go photocopy people, carbon copy them, however you want to think of it, mirror them, whatever. So I'll leave that at that and move on to the chart. So the intraday today, pretty interesting. I was watching this throughout the day, continue to bounce. This is the top of the gap that we're wondering if it was going to come down and fill. This gap here, the big gap up that we had, well, the gap up that we had when the news from the analyst came out, the analyst catalyst. I'm pretty sure that's what that was, and have been questioning whether or not it was going to come down and fill that. And again, like we just said, Upstart had this big gap up, which it doesn't look like it has any intention of ever filling, and is almost 2 months old at this point. But in any case, this is just a few days old, and it's starting to dip the daily wick in there. But what that looked like today was quite interesting to me because it was treating it like this bizarro kind of support level, and then made this very clear run at the VWAP, which we've seen day after day after day after day, right? These very clear runs at some point to the VWAP, and then a retest right on the VWAP. I mean, go back and look at, it's not every single day, because every single day isn't a particular mirror image of the day or days before it. It's not as predictable as that, but this has been a recurring pattern. This settlement underneath the VWAP, the run up over the VWAP, and then the test, and then the fly, right? Run up, test it, fly. I mean, go back and you'll see it's on the 1 minute. So that was a really good sign. I mean, it still closed down just under 1%, but that was a good sign that there was some buying pressure coming in throughout the day, and we saw a bunch of it coming in here toward the close, even more so than that had helped spur that initial run up over the VWAP. But just something to look at, again, if folks are doing anything on the 1 minute with SoFi intraday or swing or what have you. Pretty interesting setup today that just felt very not necessarily common, but just it felt homey. It felt like, I've seen this before. On the daily, we're still kind of in this range of, is it going to fill this gap? Are we going to have to test and try to see if this uptrend will continue to hold? Is it going to just treat this as support and then jump off? I mean, if you look at, if we draw on a horizontal line here, and then I will delete it, but the low today was 1553. So if we look at 1553 and see if it draws back, we have it as immediate resistance there, resistance that flipped to support there. It sort of misses the boat a bit on this one, but catches some support zones. And then prior to that, definitely has, this was clearly caught underneath as resistance, support that flipped to resistance, resistance that flipped to support. So it is a pretty significant zone, these wicks hitting in there as well. So nothing to sneeze at, but I just don't think we need the duplicate image of the supply and demand line plus the gap fill box. Treat the gap fill box as a potential bounce zone or a potential fill, and then bounce, or fill and then test the uptrend. I think that those are sort of my theories for the moment. But otherwise, to me, nothing has really changed on the daily. We're still sort of in the same situation that we were in yesterday for the most part, pondering, is this going to be mostly a support zone that it's going to bounce off of? Is it going to come down and fill it and then go? Is it going to come down and fill it and fall through because of the bearish momentum and have to test this uptrend line? Those are the three things that I'm kind of wondering at the moment. I guess the one I'm leaving out is it could come down, fill it, and then just move sideways. But then again, it still just ends up running into the trend line and would test it that way. So that's what I'm looking at on the chart side of things. Now, if we want to do a quick update on the data, I realized I forgot to do this yesterday. Someone reminded me in the comments, but the short interest as we close out the day today, Ortex estimating that we jumped up 6.79%. Short interest closing out the day at 9.2% of the free float. So getting very, very close to that 10% threshold at which I start to throw up flags and say, hey, be careful, be aware that there's kind of getting to be a high level of short interest, and there could be a lot of there could be a lot of distorted selling pressure in SoFi right now, making it appear as though the stock is weaker than it actually is. So just be aware. So that's sort of my threshold for that. Utilization still quite low. There's a pretty large, pretty significant free float just by quantity, and so there's plenty of shares out there to borrow if short sellers want to. So it's certainly another reason to keep a close eye on it, just because the availability is seemingly there. All right, folks. Well, I hope your week is going well, and I hope that you're able to finish it off strong tomorrow. As always, I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.